I think in the last lecture, we covered the aspect of what is the use of astrology. So I got a slide on that, which says that, is understanding how learning astrology will help you to understand how planetary positions affect people's lives. It will also help you to improve prediction of the events and how to engage the natives, okay, the chart owners, and assist them in managing the expectations in their minds through empathetic prediction. As I said, if it's predetermined and there is no rollback, there's no choice but to accept and move on, right? So how do we get the news across, especially if it is a bad prediction, to the natives, and handle it empathetically? It's a big challenge for all of us, right? Now, let me cover the basics of what are the tools that astrology uses to predict events. Okay, so the first tool is the chart. Okay, in traditional terms, this is also called the horoscope. Okay, the second tool or the model is called transit. Okay, transit is nothing but the predetermined. Mathematically, you can find out which planet will be in which position on this date and time. Okay, and NASA has done this table, the ephemeris table, for hundreds of years going forward, right? So this is how it has been pre-planned by the astronomical events, right? So transit is predetermined movement of one planet from one house to the other. Okay, so these two are matched. Okay, so this is at the time of birth. This is current. Okay. Okay. So the transit model is matched with the time of birth model, and you get an event. This is in simplest terms how mathematically CP astrology works. Okay, this is the basis of CP astrology. Okay, so you have a transit model, you have a time of birth model, match these two and get events, right? Now let's talk about chart, right? What happens in a particular chart, right? Now to do a chart, you need the following three things. Okay, the horoscope is the data I need to supply is the place, the date of birth, Julian, and then time of birth. So this is the signature. Okay, now in the place of birth, so when uh, somebody says, I was born in Singapore, right? If you want real good prediction, if it's a large place, okay, like the US, where the latitude longitude is different even across nearby cities, it's good idea to get which hospital somebody was born. Okay, then we can use the exact location to determine the place, right? Date of birth is date of birth, and then time of birth. Now there are three theories around the time of birth, right? In calculating what time somebody was born, right? Either it is the child exiting the womb, exiting the mother, or child umbilical cord is cut, or child cries. Now we have not done major research on that, but we managed to, at least in 2-3 cases, we asked the parents to exactly get the 3 timings, and we wanted to match the exact time of birth. And this can be somewhere between 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, a gap. It's quite possible. Okay, it may be greater than or equal to 2 minutes, right? So because the time difference is very high, it'll change the chart itself, right? So normally when you ask somebody for future thing, at least the newborns coming in, tell them to capture these 3 timings, so that when we go through a process of rectification of time of birth, it'll match to any one of them. Okay, and my experience is matching to more here, right? But this is the first breath the child is having, so it is quite possible that the time of birth for the particular or the baby or the infant will be closer to the first cry. Okay, first cry of the child, right? So this is something that you need to learn as you go along, right? If you have this data, okay, of these 3, planetcombo.com will recommend, with no commercial obligations or liabilities. We don't have any tie-up with any organization which generates horoscopes. You can manually generate the horoscope as well, but I would say that is less best use of your time. So you should buy a software, computer software, which will prepare the chart when you supply these 3 parameters, right? My experience, the software from True Astrology, you can Google it. This is quite an advanced and an accurate piece of software which will give you the right chart, right? So you got to use the software. Don't try to write the horoscopes, because that is not the objective of these lessons. These lessons is to use a chart and to learn how to predict. Okay. The third thing from a transit purposes, how do you know the planets are transiting at this particular house at this particular point, right? So there is a table which is supplied by NASA. It is called the ephemeris table. So if you use a software like True Astrology, it's already built in, right? You don't need to worry about transit. So it also gives you a transit option of all the planets at a particular date or time. So you get the time of birth model as well as the transit model in one software. Okay, so this is something to realize, right? So you need to have a chart. Now, what if somebody doesn't have a chart? Okay, then in my view, you can't predict. You cannot predict if there's no chart. What happens if somebody knows the date, somebody doesn't know the exact timing? Now, this is where I would say we need to get some events from people's lives, like marriage, probably last date of travel, overseas travel, if that person has already got overseas. Then if there's an engagement, somebody has gone to surgery, somebody might have lost some beloved ones, lost kin and kith, the date. These are all signatures in somebody's chart, right? So get the timing, and then you need to probably go through a birth time rectification process. Okay. Now, this is a serious science which we'll cover in the next lectures as we go along. So you've got to get the timing right, reasonably right, to get the chart right, right? So if there is no timing, then try to get some validation parameters and try to get the timing. So if there is a chart, if the timing is there, and you also get some events, past events, and these are matched, then I think you got a good chart, okay, where you can confidently say this is a validated chart. So our aim is to work on these 3 parameters, which is place, time, date, plus validation. Dates, you go through birth time rectification technique, then you get a validated chart. My suggestion is do not predict unless the chart is validated, okay? Then you go through the prediction engine. Validation chart. So as a summary, you need these place, time, and date, these 3 parameters, and you got to get a validated chart to start the prediction, okay? And my recommendation is use a industry established software. I've recommended one with no commercial liability or no commercial obligations. But you can go to the market and find what best is there. But this particular one I have found to be very accurate and easy to use. Okay. So in the next lecture, we will start covering what are the real players in astrology. Okay. The planet is a very important player. The house is a very important player in astrology. Okay. So we will cover those aspects one by one, and then we will draw up a chart, understand the chart, validate the chart, do the birth time rectification of the chart. Then we'll get into predictions, okay, of past. It is my experience, it is always easy to predict past events. It is very difficult to predict future events. So at the end of this entire lecture, our aim should be to sharpen our techniques to ensure that we give quick, accurate, empathetic prediction to the chart owner based on his query. So if the chart owner says, when will I get married? So you should be able to say around this date is you're likely to get married. Okay. So this is the the kind of results that you should aim for. Okay. So thank you very much. I'll see you in the next video. And one aspect of this video is that do not spend time on manually drawing of horoscopes. If somebody wants it, I can refer you to a better expert who can train you on how to do manual charts. Thank you very much.